Welcome back to Aggie Pride, a UC Davis football podcast. It's Causeway Classic week. It's the last Causeway Classic week, confirmed by Jake Gadon from CBS Sacramento. Brock messes up another name. Confirmed by Tim Plow. Do you say it like that? Tim Plow, or is it Tim Lasso from UC Davis? This episode is sponsored by Rival Snacks. Get some spicy tacos. They're filled with this beautiful creamy texture. They're going to be at Bob Vick's Field on Saturday morning. Guys, no more laughing. Stingers down. Beat Sags Day. Flush is on the pod tonight. It's Dwight's birthday. It's my 13th wedding anniversary. Nick King got called out by his CEO for a mustache today. And welcome to the show, Dwight Smith and Nick King. That's how we started this thing.
No better way. No better way to start it, man. I mean, you got to be ready for the 12th round. This is it. It's like what's happened has happened. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about Sac State and talk about Davis. But this is it, man. We got to win the 12th round. And that's what makes this week so exciting on top of everything that you just mentioned.
I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't bring this out here. King of the Causeway.
Ooh, wow.
Holding it down right here. Have it right in my front door. It's the first thing I look at when I go into my office. Last thing I do when I clock out, man. I mean, this game means everything to us. I love it so much. I was 4-0 against Sac State, so always have that kind of swagger here. My father-in-law he's a Sac State guy. So, man, there's nothing better for the last game, especially for playoffs.
Yeah, I like how you said he's a Sac State guy, because when you go to Sac State, you're not like an esteemed alum. Sorry, I know I'm getting you in hot water now, but you are just a guy. Just kidding. Broxton Fuego. And we are going to take a turn because life is full of all of this. And we talked about it with Flush. Flush shares so many stories. So people, you have to stick around for the back half of this pod. It's going to be a long one, but get a commute in. And there's so many ups and downs to the human life. And there's so many experiences that Flush talks about, like the hard moments of life. And, we just had a loss, which is a learning moment we've talked about too, but it pales in comparison with one of the big stories locally close to where I live, and a program that is in the heart of Oakland. And it was featured a handful of years ago on a really prominent documentary series that Netflix does named Last Chance U. Head coach, Laney College, John Beam, passed away this past week in a shooting in Oakland, and just like a tragic event. At the time of that show, my company were working with Laney, and they were clients of ours, and he's just, even in I think of the high school coaching world, because he coached at Skyline for a ton of years, like he's just one of those guys who has been in Oakland forever. And one of the guys who is always trying to make Oakland a better place and all the people around. So we do want to give a moment for that program, for the Beam family, and just send our condolences. And I know that you guys are familiar with Coach as well. So any thoughts on that tough situation that went down this last week?
Yeah, I'll just say a quick word, and then want to hear from you too, Nick. But Brock, appreciate you making time for us to talk about this, because nothing's guaranteed in life, right? And it's why it's so important to really be intentional with how you treat people. And it's been incredible to see and read all the testimonies of the amazing impact that Coach Beam had on, athletes across multiple different generations. The tragic events are hard to wrap your head around. But it's been really, in one sense, it makes your heart more heavy. And then there's also it's incredible to see the amazing impact this man made. And as someone who got to coach a little bit, just got to get a taste of what that experience is like to be able to impact young people, and to do that work, in the heart of Oakland, at the junior college and at the high school level. I was looking to see if there's some Davis connections, two of them that I know. Our teammate TJ King, his little brother Trevor King, played on that team that was featured in Last Chance U, that won the state championship in 2018. So thinking of, the King family, and Trevor, who lost a coach. And then I was just looking up online. It looks like we had a guy, Lorenzo Carbajal. I may or may not be saying that name correctly, but it looks like he was a transfer from Laney, to play football at Davis. And so thinking of you, Lorenzo, and obviously thinking of Coach Beam's family and extended football family, across the country, that's really feeling this loss.
It's really hard to follow up on Dwight, and he's so thoughtful and then passionate about everything. And so all I'll say is that I love you guys. As Dwight, you said, nothing's guaranteed. We have a deep family here that spreads through the Bay Area, and it's a heavy loss across everyone. And so tell your people you care about, because you never know, nothing's guaranteed. So that's why I'm here. So be with you guys, be with my family, my friends. So that's all I got to say.
Love you too, man.
Yeah, I love you guys too. And it's strange. I start like kind of balls to the walls too, just because we're excited on one hand, right? Like we're so excited for something that's fun on Saturday. It's fun for us. We're alums. We're fans. There's other people who are playing the game and coaches who are stressing, and you know, kids who are trying to get grades and figure out a way to go to the game, and then there's really, really deep, hard stuff going on too. And so, on a show like this, and Dwight and I have talked about it a lot, like at times we wish we could really spend more time on the things that matter. And I think that comes across through some of the interviews we have, some of the questions we ask guests, and honestly just what each guest brings, and we'll see it with Flush, like I mentioned. So again, condolences to the whole Laney family. And I think now kind of moving into a potentially like sad last Causeway. I don't, I'm really surprised that Coach Plow was that strong in his statements. Like, this is the last Causeway Classic ever. Folks know, like, we had t-shirts designed that are for sale on our website, AggiePridePodcast.com, or you can find the links on IG or X, which are going fast. And we used that moniker, the last Causeway Classic. I was honestly just like, oh, that's kind of a cool mantra. I don't believe that. Well, more and more, like with the reports and everything, I think it is going to be kind of tricky to play the Hornets for a while moving forward. But before we get to Sac State, we did have a game in Bozeman. You guys know I was there. You guys each got a chance to watch it on TV, which is a different, in some ways, better experience to see the X's and O's and the all 22. Maybe just like a minute or two on each of your thoughts on the game. Nick, we'll start with you. What did you make of the 38-17 Bobcat victory over the Ags last weekend?
Yeah, and I didn't post this because I don't have socials, but that was close to my prediction in my group chat. I thought it was going to be like a 31-17 game. Obviously, I was excited for the opportunity for what the guys could prove, but man, it's tough. I can't help but look back, and I know we're not about looking back and it's talking about coach speak, but to see what our team was at full strength and what could have been this season, it just hurts. I mean, with that context, I was actually really impressed, especially on the defensive side of the front. We have so many injuries, and holding the 3 and outs, making them look really off kind of balance the first half. So I really love to see that from Blue Force. And then the execution issues kind of came into play, and you just can't have those, especially when you play against Montana State at home. So Dwight, you called it right when it happened. That missed touchdown, I mean, who's to say if they don't go all the way in to Mitch, I think kind of swung the game, the missed field goal. So then started missed tackles. So there was just a lot of execution errors in the second half. So it was tough to see, but I think we've said all along, it's really great to see how well the team is playing, considering all these factors. And it really, whether you like it or not, to now have this as the last Causeway Classic to get into the playoffs, we're focusing on this week now, and we'll take this as an opportunity.
Yeah. Just ditto your comments about the defense. I think like if you look at how the game played out, obviously there's the turnovers and the key moments that shifted the game. Montana State has this crazy stat about outscoring opponents 90-0 in the third quarter. And we were really close to getting that field goal in the third. It ends up being right at the beginning of the fourth. But our defense, held them to 3 points in the third quarter, their most productive quarter, where it was like, hey, come out, crush them, take the life from them. Now they got the score off of the interception return in the third quarter as well. But the defense is like allowing Montana State, the juggernaut offense, to just do their own thing. That just didn't happen. And I agree with you, Nick. There was moments that I couldn't help myself. I was like noticing little things, little late reactions, little moments where it's like you miss the guys that are out. But at the same time, a really heartening and encouraging performance by a defense that's had to reinvent themselves. And credit to Coach Coombs for his scheming ability to make the best of the athletes that are there, and credit to the guys that are going out there and giving everything they've got. It was really disappointing. And we really soon here, we're going to just brush off our bruises and focus fully on beating the team across the causeway. But it was disappointing for one thing, for one reason. Our defense, I truly believe our defense did enough to allow us to win the game. I think I think Brock, you said that. I agree 100%. And there were spurts of us being able to do that on offense. The quick start again against Montana State, and then really a stalemate till getting later into the second quarter, and that's where some of the mistakes started to happen. But it's disappointing when it's self-inflicted, when it's majority unforced. Of course, the other team plays and puts you in a position to make mistakes, but we want to have a mindset where we control what we can control, and we took opportunities away from ourselves, and that's the lesson we have to learn as we head forward here. So disappointing to lose a game that I think we put ourselves in a position to be there at the end, which is what I said. We had to play our perfect game to be there at the end with a chance to win, and we didn't execute at the level we needed to. So
Also, can I put my hat on really quickly? No, I think the players played, you can't control, but man, Caden Pennick is getting destroyed when he throws the ball, when he's running, and there just wasn't a lot of those penalties. And I think that's the gift and the curse as a young guy who hasn't maybe earned his stripes, and now you got a cheap penalty. And I don't know if Brock, you saw that, where Caden just got bumped and he kind of he did his best acting job. So we got one, but there was at least 4 plays where he got absolutely destroyed, late hit, nothing was called. And again, you can't control that, but as a fan seeing the TV copy, that really killed me, is to say, man, this guy is putting it all on the line. So the refs need to protect him a little bit better.
Yeah. And I just one other thing real quick on that is like, kudos to the offense overall, because we went a marching multiple times, moving the ball through large chunks of the field to get into striking distance. And that is where we had critical breakdowns of different types, whether it's the missed field goal or the turnovers. But it wasn't like, oh, we just had that drive at the beginning of the game and then we were completely shut down until we got some points in garbage time. We moved the ball. We had some struggles, but we had multiple solid drives moving the ball at least 30, 40, 50 yards down the field on at least 2 occasions. So again, it's like the margin is much less than people would like folks to believe, even looking at the score. So yeah, I gotta move on from it. But it's a bummer, you know, and I think the flip side of that is, gosh dang it, we've got what it takes. We just gotta execute, man.
Dag gurnick, gosh dang it, dadgum. I will share a little bit what it was like being there, because I know that sometimes people, including myself, vicariously live through other people's lives, and so I did try to post some content so that people could kind of get the feel. But, um, Saturday was a long day. Like, we went hiking half hour out of town. Like, we went to an hour yoga class. Like, we went to a long meal. We started tailgating hella early at Mike Fletcher, New England Patriots parents bar, who used to play for the Bobcats, and Justin Lamson's brother Coulter, who's an offensive tackle for Colton, for the Ags a handful of years ago, was there. And I just kept thinking, man, babe, I said, we're going to see the guys walking around Main Street. They had the Bobcat flags every 10 yards. And like, lo and behold, like 3 different times during the day, I see our team, like, there's our short wide receivers and Le'Veon Pickett. There's, Coach Plow and Christine heading into a Christmas shop for a minute. Like, I mean, it was a long, long day. And so I told Caitlin, like, this is going to be hard for them to start fast. And walking up to the stadium, they had a free tailgate. There's like stores in town that just provide a fully free tailgate that we did. And then walking through the aisles, like, I remember our senior year playing there, the bus driving up, seeing the tailgate scene and being like, this is so cool. It was like that times 10. I mean, the customization of every tailgate, like, it made the Washington one that we went to not that impressive, to be honest. And I think that's the cool aspect of Bozeman. And there's so many people moving to Bozeman. Like, I talked to so many people this past weekend there. So many folks moving there from out of town. It is expensive, guys. It was like walking around Walnut Creek. Like, I paid $26 for an omelet. That's the town, that's the pregame. We did not start slow. We came out fast. The guys were dialed from the beginning, talking to players' parents and stuff. I said, like, are we actually confident? Like, Plow he wasn't giving off the confident vibes, and oh no, the guys think they're gonna win. They're gonna win. Like, they have the plan. And he did have the plan. The time of possession, the ability to run the ball, our defense's ability to stop the run. Batu had 10 catches. Jordan Fisher averaged 5 yards a carry. Kaya Sia averaged 7 yards on his 5 carries. Like, we did every single thing you want to do. And I did not believe Caden Pinnock was going to do that. It's the 3rd straight game Caden Pinnock's had 2 turnovers. That is a thing. That will be a thing on Saturday too. I think that will be the thing on Saturday. We not getting to Sac State yet. I said Jacob Syke on Samuel Akem's podcast was going to be the Big Sky Player of the Year. First quarter, we go up 7-0. Jackson Severs and Jacob Syke combined for a sack, which Jackson Severs each and every week is impressing me more and more. He's got a lot on his shoulders. I think he's playing really good at the linebacker position. But Caden Dowler, and he had 12 tackles. He had a TFL. He had a forced fumble. He had 2 interceptions, including the house pick 6, which was a dope return. And I got heckled online about it. But I do think those are the types of performances where you flash the Heisman afterwards because you did all the things. And we threw it to him once, but the other pick was pretty nice. And so I think it comes down to that. The missed field goal hurts. But when we were on the sidelines, like, the vibes of this team are confident. Ian Simpson did have the touchdown. I did predict the 31-17 to Nick. And they should not have scored at the end. That was a garbage time touchdown that really inflated their rushing stats. We held them to less rushing yards than us until the last 2 carries of the game. And then they had the chunk play that really made the score look inflated. So way more I could say about the game. The drone show pregame was insane. Caitlin was like, my ears are cracking when they make big plays. It's a snap, crackle, pop. And they were so nice before the game. They were all so nice. Guy comes up to me, oh, your podcast is so well done. It sounds so good. It looks so good. Like, literally just randos. These are real fans, guys. And then during the game, and Flush says it on the back half of our episode, like, we don't talk back. We don't do that. I get a little testy during games. As a player, I was like a sweetheart mostly, other than getting upset at myself. As a fan, I'm nasty. The sideline guy who was doing replay was talking ish the whole game. I couldn't hold it. I couldn't hold it, Dwight. And I did say like, "Hey, not going to say what I said. No curse words." But I was like, "You're working, man. You're working." That's it. We'll move forward. There's 4 teams in the Big Sky who I thought were head and shoulders above everyone to start the year. That was Montana State, Sac State, UC Davis. The last game of the year, each of those 4 teams are now playing each other with playoffs on the line. NAU might get in, even though they're going to probably lose the first round. But this is the game. So we look ahead, sponsored by BPM&J. Get your life together and reach out to Scott Judson and his gang who have offices in Walnut Creek and Sacramento. They'll take care of you. They'll make sure that you're planned for the future, which is so important. So we really want to just remind people this Causeway Classic week that your former Aggie Pack MC, your former Cal Aggie Alumni Association president is your guy to work on your estate plans, your wills, your trusts. Reach out to BPM&J. And we look ahead to the 72nd annual and last Causeway Classic ever. Dwight, we'll start with you. Opening thoughts on the big one.
Yeah, I know we talked about wanting to get into Causeway memories, so we can save that or fold that in here.
Opening thoughts.
Because it's part of looking ahead is also looking back.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, you do it.
Yeah, yeah, man. Grew up going to the Causeways. Grew up walking down Miller Drive to the Tomb when they were at home, and went out to Hughes Stadium for that weird one, and then out at Sac State for other ones, and so many great memories. I got to catch Plow's. Plow got asked this question on his press conference, and one of his is, well, all of his are great, but one of his is one of mine. Brock, we talked about some of these games in a podcast last year. My guy Mo Mortazavi, a fellow walk-on receiver, has a huge touchdown catch to win the game from John Berrigan. I was at that game. That was a lot of fun, but so many great Causeway memories. And then I was just looking through my phone the other day, our final game. We got the dub over in Sac. My final football game padding up. And I was just looking at a picture with like my younger brother, and like you could tell like my eyes were bloodshot red from like crying in the locker room. And it's just a special game, and I've felt the losing side of it. I think we got more victories than losses, not your pristine record, Nick, but it's just a special rivalry, and makes it all that more exciting this week to have the chance to retain the trophy and have even more of the bragging rights than we already do moving forward until whenever they figure out how to get the game back on the schedule. So really, really excited, packed with a lot of emotion for myself. I can only imagine for you two and all the other alums who think about their experiences playing Sac State.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we can all say that we weren't making the playoffs when we were playing. So this was our playoff game going against Sac State. I know similarly to Cal Poly, like that was our goal, is to knock them out of the playoffs if they were making it. Because historically, Sac State, the knock on them, or I guess the pros, is they've always had arguably more talent than us, but they've never been that true team. And I think that's kind of the transient nature of Sac State. I think it's, and not to try to give too much bulletin board material, but we're wearing the Aggie pride. And I think Sac State, we don't have something like that. So there was just so much passion going into that game. I have so many fantastic memories as I already held it up, going 4-0 against Sac State. I actually remember our last game was at Sac State, and you two were there. I think you guys were like the first 2 alumni that I locked eyes on after the game. I also remember, I think it was my redshirt sophomore year, your third year. Remember the monsoon game at Davis where they had to evacuate the fans. And I remember my mom and probably all of our parents were huddled in the bathroom waiting for, there was lightning. It wasn't as bad as Mercer, but we had that also. And then we came back, we were going down the tunnel. Remember, there's just water everywhere, just pouring down rain. It was insane. And I remember Colton Schmidt, made it to the league. Punter U, I think he kicked like a 5-yard punt. It went like 20 yards, then bounced all the way back because of the wind. And then also, I mean, you got to think the Causeway, most people don't know what that is. And you got to say that trophy is probably one of the heaviest trophies there is. It's quite dangerous. If you guys remember holding that thing up and how much that weighs. So yeah, I mean, it's such a special game for us. I live literally in Brockwood to my house, a half mile from Sac State now, which is kind of crazy. So there's just so much to think about. And for the seniors, this means a lot for us. I know some of these rivalries come and go, but this really means when you look back and we talk about those memories. I don't remember a lot of games I won and lost, but I can say Sac State's a game I'll always remember, stats, everything else like that.
Yeah, and it's yeah, that game was crazy. I think Plow mentioned that one too, Nick, on his answer remembering crazy games. Yeah, that Monsoon game was wild. And I remember our boy Sean Critic, caught like the one pass of the game to get us into field goal range to have Seabass put that thing away. But just a comment about it is what makes it so great is there's no love lost on either side. I just happened to be listening to like a different podcast a couple of days ago, and it had a guy who does, I think might have coached at Sac State or done commentary. Now he does commentary, and this was like a maybe 10-minute interview. He refused to say the word Davis. Like just how we're like the team on the other side of the Causeway. I mean, the hate is real, man. The hate is real. So I think that just adds to it. That adds to the in-game environment. Like I remember this one play our senior year, my last game. I had this seam route from like the slot position, and the pass was a little bit high, so I go up for it, and this linebacker who was running on my hip just came in with like the helmet to the ribs and just like stayed on top of me for a while after. You could tell like it was personal. So I mean that's what makes it fun though. That's what makes it special, and that's what makes it feel that much better when you kick their ass.
Yeah, that game stands out to me too. I was just looking at the stats. 17-16 final. I remember I had a bunch of tackles in the game. Bobby Erskine had 11 tackles. I had 7 tackles, which I was like, okay, let's do it. And the reason why we had so many tackles, guys, because all they did was run the ball. They couldn't throw the ball. So that was what it was. It was just like, we're actually going to get a bunch of tackles today. So I remember always going against their guard who played at Dublin High School. I played at Concord High School. And so it's like we would battle each other in high school. And then it goes back to like how rivalry looks like is when you're playing guys who you knew in high school. And so I think that's kind of a unique nature of these very regional rivalries. And so whereas people on the East Coast like might not be as familiar with the Causeway Classic, I'm with you, Nick. Like the Golden Horseshoe is not it for me. I don't like that trophy. I don't like it. The Causeway block, I love that cylinder. That thing's legit. I love it. I think it's just hardcore. I think it's a cool rivalry trophy. They're not all made equally. And so I love this game. I too think, Nick, that this was a game I thought like, oh, these guys might have better athletes than us, but like we are a better team. And I kind of stop and don't say much more because I don't want to like give anything out there either. But I think that's even the point too. We're not in the business of like trying to provoke or give people anything that they need. Like the game has everything you need. It has all the emotion you need. It's got a good coaching matchup this year. Brendan Marion makes $732,000 in this calendar year. Tim Plow makes $379,000, and that's if he wins 10 games and if he ties his shoes with a double knot Nah, I don't know. I mean, there's some incentives in there and stuff. I'm not saying anything you can't find online, but I think like the reality is they brought in Marion to be an FBS coach. They really struggled, and we'll get into the game now. They really struggled. Um, and I think they have turned it around. And going back to that 2010 season for us, like we were 3-5, and Flush talks about it with our interview. He's like, that was a hell of a coaching job by Coach Big because we won 3 straight games to finish 6-5. We beat North Dakota on the road. We beat a talented Sac State team at home to finish the year, and I think they have turned it around. And so I think we do kind of dive into some things to watch. I will start, and I will point out what I've seen on the offensive side of the ball for Sac State in the games that I've watched. Had a chance to watch a good amount. We're naturally interested, and I think the whole country to some degree was interested. Like, what is Sac State gonna look like? Do they really have all these guys? Are they really that talented? Um, is this thing gonna blow up in their face because Sac State can tend to do that? And I think ultimately, like the offensive side of the ball is what Marion's known to do, which is run the football. Similarly to the Oregon Chip Kelly days where you thought it was just like this flashy offense, it was really just power football at pace. And I think when you even go back to Brent Vegan's comments about us last week, like it's a lot of window dressing. Then after the shifts in motions, they line up and they play football and they run a counter. You know what I mean? Or something like not that crazy. I think their offense is even simpler. It is run, 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 play action over the top to Ernest Campbell, the 4-star kid from Texas A&M who's got a bunch of big plays. I think Cardell Williams has not been that impressive throwing the football for me in the games that I've watched. I think he's blazing fast, and I think he can be elusive. He kind of like Pinnock. He's not like a powerful runner, but I do think he is someone that we're going to have to do a good job of limiting. I thought we did a great job of that on Lamson until the end of the game. But I think they have multiple running backs. Hammond is the guy who gets a lot of carries, but Smith is talented as well. They're deep in the skill positions. And I think the area that maybe we're a little bit less impressed with is the boys down low, which is an NIL thing. This is, we actually get a chance to talk about the NIL because we think they've paid a certain amount of money to these guys. Who knows what actually has gone on? Because there could have been stipulations about FBS transition and so on and so forth. But I really do think there's been a drop off at that side of the ball. I think they've improved throughout the years, though, on the offensive side of the ball, because defensively, I think they do have some dudes down low. And you see it come out, especially in their sack numbers. But offensively, it's a group that's steadily improved. It's a group that wants to pound the rock. They're going to run zone read. They're going to run lead. They're going to run counter. They're going to play action and throw some basic ass routes. And it's going to be the discipline of our team. When I watch the film on some of these other defenses, Idaho, Montana, Portland State, like our defense is considerably better than each of those schools out of the games that I watch. And so I was encouraged, like y'all, about our defense against Montana State. I think we'll be able to slow down that rushing attack, but it's going to take everyone being very disciplined and everyone playing really well. So that's kind of where I'm at. There's so much more to say, but Dwight, I'll pass it to you on the matchup.
Yeah, it's been an interesting season in total when you look at what Sac State has done. Obviously the slow start, and then the offense kind of getting clicking. And then there's always been a bit of a question for me on their overall defense. They do have some dudes on the line who have been able to get into the backfield, and I'm sure Nick, you might talk a little bit about that. But I think overall, like, what I see when I look at their season so far is if you don't have a good run defense, you're not going to win, because they're going to be able to run the ball, and it's going to chew up the clock, and it's going to lead to a really challenging situation. I did watch a good chunk of the Idaho game, which just had a wild ending again. like they've been in some games that like the Northern Colorado game. I don't know if folks watched that, but go back and watch how that game ended. Wild. Like they could easily be a what would it be? Gosh, I can't do math, but a 5-win team right now. There's a really controversial call at the end of the Idaho game for a catch that really looked out of bounds. That was called inbounds that set them up for Cardell Williams to run in with like 5 seconds left to seal the win. But one thing I will say is that Williams looked actually pretty good throwing the ball against Idaho. I know it's not a cornerstone of their offense, but it's what won them the game. It's absolutely what won them the game against Idaho at the end. And so, I think we have to be prepared for whatever Brendan Marion brings, which I think we can say is going to be that heavy dose of the run with that kind of it reminds me when I think about the game plan like on defense for them. It reminds me, Brock, and Nick, of those it's not the same, but it reminds me of those Cal Poly days, man, of just like, like the read pass option, like that they ran that triple option, but like, we're gonna have to be very assignment disciplined to kind of plug the gaps that need to be plugged and not get caught looking the wrong direction or flow in the wrong direction with everything they do. And I think we have the disciplined defense to do it. So that's my thought on that. And then really quickly on their defense, I think we have an opportunity with our offense if we take care of the ball and get back to our not even get back to, just clean up some of the costly mistakes and just keep building on Caden Pickett's ability to distribute, make decisions. Really great to see Kaiasia kind of get some meaningful carries in the last game. I'd be curious. I'd love to see him and Jordan get action there, because I think once you get through the first level, there's opportunities, and I think we'll have opportunities with our speed at wide receiver. They have dudes in the secondary for sure, but no one that jumps off the page to me like a Caden Dowler or someone like that. So I think if we keep up our offensive clip, mitigate the mistakes, not turn the ball over, I think we'll be able to score. And I think our defense will be able to limit Sac State's scoring opportunities.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I mean, first off, Dwight, you called it out. There seemed to be like a questionable call at the end of that game to get them into scoring position. So we just leave at that. I think there's a good amount of camera angles that make you scratch your head a little bit. But hey, we had the same things that I think about last year with Portland State too. You're like, question that, but that's what FCS is for. So I only watched one game, and so you guys can fill this in color. And I watched the Idaho game, and it was pretty clear to me that they have two really strong, I'll say, to be redundant, strengths. It's their D-line, and it looks like they lead, like it said, 37 sacks. So I think they're leading the Big Sky in sacks across the season, and then their secondary. And between those two, so their defense causes a lot of chaos, man. Mary's incredibly active. They're really disciplined, and I know that Idaho quarterback was just launching it against us. And compared to the game against Sac State, everything was really kind of short passes to the running back, to the tight end, to the flat, which has become one of our strengths too. So we're really going to have to be patient. Dwight, you mentioned that. It's going to challenge us in a lot of ways. I was a little, I'll say, disappointed with the O-line. I think Montana State got after us, and I think that just kind of builds momentum over time, where Caden felt like he was running for his life, getting hit after every play, and that kind of forces him to maybe have those turnovers, and Sac State's going to get after him. So we have to be really thoughtful about making them stop to run first, which I was going to mention Montana State, and it's an obvious statement that we really miss, Carter Vargas, our guy. It's tough to have that. I mean, Jordan Fisher, he's tiny and he's still getting after it. So props to him. I feel like everything we do is like, this was frustrating, but we actually really like to see this. We have to run the ball so the D-line can't pin their ears back. We're going to have to run a lot of screens, and then Caden's going to have to look to run. But I think there's going to be a big challenge. I know Mike Cody, we'll talk about Sac State and talk about kind of the memories we have. He was on our team. You know, he was such a great guy, great blocker. He's going to have to challenge the O-line this week and say, hey, guys, this game is on us. We need to protect Caden. And if we can do that, not make dumb penalties, no holding, make sure that we hold up at the line of scrimmage, and let us be methodical about driving the ball. You mentioned Dwight. They like to run the ball. They're going to try to kill the clock. So we have to do the same thing as well. We got to make sure that we control the ball. So I think those are kind of the two big things. And I would say from the key players I'd look out for is their edge. Devin Wright. I think most of these guys have 4 or 5 sacks. I think they have like 4 or 5 guys with 4 or 5 sacks. And their safety, Koa Kui, I think he had 2 picks against University of Nevada. He's consistently making tackles. Like I said, they're incredibly athletic. So their defense is good, and it's a lot of chaos. And it's going to be a fun challenge for Plow this week. I'm really excited to see what he draws up. I think he had some great plays against Montana State. Some of that we landed, some that we didn't. So it's going to be a really fantastic matchup between the offense and the defense.
Yeah, I love it. And that takes us to our Buckhorn Grill score predictions. And when you are thinking about coming to this game, Nick and Dwight, you are all invited. I say this again. You, the listener, whoever the hell you are invited to come down to Bobby Biggs practice field. Because guess what? That thing is open. You don't have to have some ticket or some code or some connect to get in there. You are welcome to come to Bob Biggs Field. That is where we will be doing the Causeway Classic shirt handout for those who purchased beforehand. So make sure to select the UC Davis Health Stadium pickup option. We also, like, if you live out of state and you're like, no, I want that shirt though, that shirt's dope, you can actually order it and your boy will put it in a little mini box that my wife bought on Amazon with some cool little clear tape and send it to your house. Okay. People have already done that as of tonight. But I really do think you should come. There is going to be buckhorn meat. Now, that might be exclusive to the Holtman crew, but there's going to be drinks, and bring your own drinks, bring your own food. And if you listen to the podcast, or, you know, last year we did it for the Illinois State playoff game, and like we met some people who we had never met. They just listened to the podcast, and that was cool. Come, like, you don't have to feel awkward. Have a beverage or two, or don't. Just go sober all day and have a clear mind when you watch the game. That's fine too. And Jason Moon will be there. And so if you want to talk housing, you talk to Jason Moon. He will be there. I think this game is not going to be high scoring. The reason why I think that, even though like you think rivalry game, it gets crazy. The reason why I think that is, like, I think both offenses are going to be in the time of possession power struggle. I do think that was such a key part of the Plow plan last week that was executed well. We talked about execution. I think we're looking at a game more like UC Davis 27, Sacramento State 24. That's my score prediction for the game. It's really just a tough game to call. And when you look at the Sac State games on paper throughout the year, like you said, Nick, like on paper, you think, man, this team's got more talent than us. But I just don't think in the last Causeway Classic ever in Davis, with the playoffs essentially on the line, Sam Golgowski's dad asked me in the Bozeman airport yesterday, what do you think our chances are if we don't win the game to make the playoffs? I said 10 to 15%. But I think we're going to win the game. Like, I'm like at 80% confidence on winning this game. So let's not leave it up to the playoff committee. That is just a bunch of subjective human beings. Let's take care of business. Here's some things that I think need to happen. I think that Kaiasia needs like 7 to 8 carries. I think Jordan Fisher needs to bust a couple. I think Caden Pinnock needs to play clean football. I'll allow you one. That's fine. If you have more than one, we're going to lose. If you have one, we can overcome that. And the other way we can overcome that is defensive turnovers. We did not force a turnover on Saturday in Bozeman. As well as we played, we gave up 31 defensive points. Say what you want. That's not amazing. It's a good offense. But in order to win this game, I think turnovers are going to be important. I also am hopeful that Hunter can have a bounce back. I think being able to make kicks in crucial moments is something we know he can do. And I think that's going to be important, not only for this game, but the psyche moving forward. he can do it, and I think it's just about finding that rhythm. And he made his last kick in Bozeman, which I think is just another little like confidence booster. But the weather looks nice, guys. Like low 60s. It's not going to be too hot seasonally. It's not going to be raining like we see in a lot of late November games. 27-24. Dwight?
I think that the game will in part be determined by if we can come out and hit him in the mouth. And I think we can. I think we demonstrated the ability to do that against a superior opponent last week. If we get up 7, 10, 14, that's going to change the anatomy of the game somewhat with what Sac State wants to do. And if we can force them to have to think about, expanding what Cardell Williams is needing to do beyond hand the ball left, hand the ball right, that's going to put them in a tough spot. So I say we do come out fast, and then Sac State gets some stuff rolling, but they're going to eventually run out of time and try to catch up. And, then our guy, Jaden Stanley, gets the pick 6 that he should already have. So I'm saying UC Davis 35, Sac State 21.
As I think we're all thinking the same thing. Brock, I thought you were about to take mine. So just getting right to it, I think it's going to be 24-20 Davis. I completely agree with you. Going to be a low scoring game. Time of possession is going to be a big thing. But I'll do you one better. I think our guy, Jacob Sack-Syke, I think he's going to have a sack fumble. That's going to be pivotal, probably third, fourth quarter. Like I said, they're probably going to be driving. I see that's coming up. Our D-line is a step up. And then also my second call out, we're going to double down on this. We talked about this, even though we're really hoping for playoffs. We believe there's playoffs. This means a lot to the seniors. So I believe Mitch Dixon is a senior. So I also have a prediction. I think he's going to have a design play. I know he's on shield, so I'm looking for maybe a fake punt or some slip screen, something. I think he's going to have a touchdown or a big play on teams or on offense. So I'm going to look for some of our seniors and some of the other guys to make some impact plays.
Yeah, well, it's going to be really fun. Like, I'm going to take some sleep gummies so that I get a good night's rest all week, because the excitement level is going to make it hard for me to sleep. And the hope is that this is the start of another deep playoff run. The flip side is like it's all over like Saturday at 4:07 p.m. That is football, and that's kind of just the place we find ourselves in with this team is due to all the things we already know about, the no contest, the Idaho State upset, and the fact that, we currently only have one ranked win and certain things that the playoff committee is going to be looking at criteria-wise, 7 FCS wins. It'd be really nice to get that 8th win. Be really nice to beat our rival. And so definitely text your friends. Like I got friends, I say this to Flush, I got friends who are coming who don't even, not even associated with UC Davis, it's just a good game to go to. So come to the game. And before you do, make sure you stick around for the back half of this episode, because we talk more about the game with Josh Flushman, longest tenured senior athletic administrator at UC Davis. And we talk about a whole lot of other things, coaches, players, history. Everything under the sun that you would want to know about UC Davis athletics, we hit on with Flush. So stick around for that, guys. I'll see you on Saturday morning at Bob Biggs practice field, and we'll be rocking our last Causeway tees, ready to frickin' hold that piece of concrete up in the air.
Oh, see you, boys.
Let's go. Go Ags. Let's go, baby.
King of the Causeway.
Happy birthday, Dwight.
Love it. Thank you.
Happy birthday, bro.
I'm waiting for my gift that will be delivered on Saturday at about 4:07 p.m.
I
Yes,
got you
sir.
some Montana coffee beans, FYI. I thought
sweet.
Dwight, yeah, he's not on the trip with me. He normally would be. I'm going to get him some coffee beans.
Oh, man,
so.
that's awesome. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I've been suffering through the stuff from Trader Joe's. I need to switch up the beans, so that'll be a timely gift.
Dwight,
Thanks, brother.
if you want to go broke, I just do the Temple. I just invest, half my salary in Temple beans.
Temple, those are good, but pricey. Yeah.
States coffee all day, every day. All right, y'all.
States is great. All right.
This episode is proudly sponsored by Next Level Sports, delivering the best youth sports experience. If you have a young aspiring athlete in 1st through 7th grade, this is your chance to get on the field with next level flag football at UC Davis. All teams are coached by a current UC Davis Aggies football player, giving kids real mentorship from the same student athletes who practice and play on the same field within the Aggies football program. All activity takes place at UC Davis Health Stadium, so you get the full game day experience every week. Whether your participant is brand new to the sport or already obsessed with football, Next Level focuses on skill building, teamwork, and growth. It's an incredible way to build confidence, make friends, and learn from true role models. Registration for the 2026 Next Level spring flag football and winter volleyball seasons at UC Davis are now open. Spots are going fast, so sign up today at nextlevelsports.com. Give your athlete the best youth sports experience.
The Aggie Football Fund provides essential gap funding for the UC Davis football program, empowering the team to access vital resources for player development and program success. It also reconnects and engages former football alumni to maintain the legacy of Aggie pride and perpetuity. Through direct and flexible support, the AFF bridges funding gaps while fostering a thriving alumni community. Visit AggieFootballFund.com for more information.
Bank like a champion when you bank with University Credit Union. UCU is the official credit union of UC Davis and is committed to giving every UC Davis student, faculty, staff, and alum a financial advantage. From low loan rates and financial coaching to high savings rates, including our new Elite Certificate Special, University Credit Union helps you reach your financial goals. Visit ucu.org for details. Use promo code AggiePridePodcast to get started. University Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA.
This episode is sponsored by the Larison Real Estate Team, Bob and Jan Larison. You already know the name. They've been incredible supporters of UC Davis football, this podcast, and of course, they're Lance's parents, now cheering him on as he suits up for the New England Patriots. Off the field, Bob and Jan are one of the top real estate teams in the region, helping folks buy and sell across Idaho and Eastern Oregon. Whether it's a home, land, or investment property, they bring experience, hustle, and heart to every deal. So if you're looking to make a move or just want honest guidance, check out LarisonTeam.com or follow them on Instagram at Larison Real Estate. Huge thanks to Bob and Jan for backing Aggie Pride.
Welcome back to Aggie Pride, a UC Davis football podcast. It is Sac State week, which means it's a big freaking week, which means we had to get a big freaking guest. It's the longest tenured senior athletic administrator at UC Davis. He's known as Flush. Josh Flushman joins the pod tonight. Flush, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Been a long time coming. Happy to be here. What did I say? Long time listener, first time caller. You know, we're excited to have you, Flush. No, it's special for us. You know, we've got history that goes way back. We were just talking before we hit record about our entry to the program being similar to the time you came on with football. And then I have special history with you being a colleague. You know, one of our zinger questions for later in the episode is going to be, take us inside a senior staff meeting in UC Davis Athletics in 2025. That'll be bulletin board material. But yeah, man, lots of love for you, Flush. Appreciate you making the time. We know you have supported and followed the pod for a long time, and really appreciate that. Really from the beginning, we had conversations with you before we even kicked this thing off, and so deeply appreciate you and everything you've brought from a support perspective to this podcast and to this community. And you've listened to pods, man, so you know where we go first, which is to take us back to the beginning, you know, of your journey with sport, with football. I know you're a multi-sport guy. I won't bury the lead, but you know, you've got a real legacy of athleticism in the Bay Area. So want to hear about like you coming up and your relationship with sport, with football, and how you really ended up taking on your role here at UC Davis.
All right, you're gonna make me go back to the memory bank. But I grew up in Berkeley, and the back door of Cal, and grew up a Cal sports fan my whole life. And I love college athletics. I love going to Cal baseball games and Cal football games growing up, and I was just an avid sports fan. Went to Berkeley High, and one of my teammates at Berkeley High, Ryan Carnes Copeland, went to Davis and became a pitched here at Davis. And I just remember that kind of started interest of, oh, Davis is this place where maybe I could play baseball at. And so I ended up coming to Davis thinking that I was on my path to my professional baseball career. And, I chose Davis over going to Cal, kind of same situation, kind of a walk on, and realized that Cal just didn't want to be home there. And Davis was such a cool college town. One of my good buddies was coming, and it just kind of spoke to being a great college university. And came here to play baseball, and Phil Swinley, Ralph Rago, and Matt Vaughn saw me kind of try out, and realized that I was not fast. And while I wouldn't strike out, the ball didn't really go anywhere. And I could feel the ball that was hit to me, but if it was 5 feet to the left or right, it was probably going to be a base hit. So, good talent evaluators, they cut me on the first cut. And I became a student of UC Davis. And, I remember it being emotional. Someone telling you, you're done. But I fell in love with Davis. I, couldn't have been happier with my choice. I made lifelong friends, never lived more than, I think my apartment at Castilian, where I lived, was the farthest I lived from campus in my 5 years at Davis. Yes, 5 years not playing sports. It can be done. But I fell in love with Davis, and it was just a great, great path. And I think it was 1997, I was playing basketball at the Arc, and I had a issue with my knee. I thought I was indestructible. And one day, January of that year, I jumped for a layup and heard something pop, and I thought, oh, I tore my ACL. Turns out I broke my kneecap. I had a stress fracture on my knee, and it popped my knee, and had surgery to kind of replace it. But in that time, I just fell in love with the mental aspect of rehab, and fell in love with sports psychology. And as like kind of avid sports fan at that point, I kind of dove into sports psychology, took classes at Davis as with Paul Solitsky in sports psych. And, when I graduated, I said, okay, I'm going to become a sports psychologist. It was kind of the era of Tiger Woods and what he was doing. So I was like, oh, anyone can do this, make some money. And, so I graduated, and I got a job working at Cal, went back home, worked in the athletic department there. I remember actually talking to my buddy who was working the Warriors, like, I can help you sell tickets. You can sell tickets for the Warriors. And in the year 2000, that was not a huge prospect. As a huge Warriors fan, I was like, as much as I love them, that didn't seem like a good idea. And my other friend got me a job kind of working in Cal in the athletics department. And so I decided to do that and pursue my master's, at night in sports psychology. So, I was very lucky in that time at Cal, where I was working with all these Olympians in the athletics, in the swimming, Natalie Coughlin, Dewey Draganic, all these guys, Anthony Irvin, gold medalists in swimming. And I'm learning like all these other sports besides football. And in basketball, I'm learning about field hockey, track and field. And I'm just, amongst these elite coaches that are kind of like helping me mold my career. At that time I was working with Terry McKeever, who went on to be the women's swim coach for the Olympics. Kirk Everest, who was with water polo, played in the Olympics, and legendary coaches in track and field like Tony Sandoval and Ed Miller, and then David Esker, baseball. So I have all these people that are just teaching me, the behind the scenes about sports and management of teams and just what it takes. And, I learned the privilege of these quote unquote Olympic sports, what it takes to win and compete. And, those student athletes are no different than the profile sports. So after a time there, I finally, it was always my dream to come back to Davis. I remember always keeping an eye on jobs at Davis and opening up. And finally in 2007, the director of football operations and assistant AD of event management opened up. And I remember just jumping on that. I went full fledged into trying to figure out how to get this job. I contacted Dee Vochester, who I'd met through the track world, because she knew Greg Warzeka. I interviewed with Bob Biggs and Keith Buckley and used my contacts there to, get in, and that got my path here. And, it kind of started with me wanting to play baseball, and it led me into kind of this career. And I've been here since 2007.
Well, it's really special to, and I relate to the student experience being something that made me want to come back to work at Davis. As well, Flush, we got to work together for a couple years, and I'm really grateful for that time. But you had this student experience, went away, kind of did your thing in the Bay, and then found your way back to Davis. And since 2007, you've been one of the mainstays across multiple administrations, right? Warzeka, Blue, now Rocco. And so just want to kind of get your thoughts on, from your earliest impressions of Davis, what you fell in love with when you came as a student to where you are now, maybe with maybe just a couple gray hairs I see there. Maybe it's just the light, yeah. Like, talk about, you've seen it all. You've seen a lot. You've seen things that have changed, and you've seen things that have remained the same. So what kind of stands out to you as you step back and look at the evolution since you're at your student days to where we sit now in 2025?
Yeah, it's funny because being a student, I loved this university, but for different reasons. Like, I was not the most academic student. I was probably more social than anything else. But I loved all the opportunities that this city and the university provided. I mean, I go to the coffee house and I just I laugh because whenever I get a coffee, I tell a person, is like, yeah, I used to do your job. I used to make coffee. I used to make sandwiches, make pizzas. I was an intramural referee, so I played intramural sports. I grew up, for us, you guys probably didn't even do it. Like, there's 2 weight rooms at the rec hall. It was called the rec hall back then. So I fell in love with Davis, and then the city was just so comfortable. I had the same crappy bike for 5 years, and at the end of the time, like, to drive it straight, you had to angle it, a little to the right, and only had 1 pedal. But I love Davis because of just those things that just made it fun, and in the people. And so when I had the opportunity to come back, you're trying to capture that spirit, but I realized I was 7 years older. I was more mature, I guess, to so to speak. And so I was hoping that it would be that, but albeit it wasn't. I was a professional, I had to act. I couldn't go to the Paragon and drink every night like I wanted to. I had to kind of find my niche, and Davis was still special. Like, the people were still special here, just a different vein. I mean, I shared, you guys remember the trailer, which was where the DBs used to meet. And in that room was the track coaches, me, Keith Buckley, and Rich Scangarello. And it was a fun time, like, I captured good people around me, and just got to be part of Davis, athletics. And so, having fun to meet people and just experience how important Davis was good for me.
It takes me to something when you talk about the Coho, which there's already so many nuggets. You growing up a Cal fan in Berkeley, I relate to that. Also, your one-liners and your one-liner to the Coho guy, like you say, hey, I say it to him every time, which I believe, because I feel like when Dwight and I see you, you have your one-liner with us. Dwight knows what it is. He doesn't want us to say it out loud right now.
No, we won't
But
bring it up.
yeah, we won't. But, like, I do think of you as someone who has, like, these distinct points with just so many people. And I've talked about this on previous episodes. I'm at this stage of life where I'm really meeting so many new people, kids going to school, et cetera, et cetera. And it's hard for me to remember names. And it's hard for me. So I'm trying very hard to associate something with someone. And that was one of my earliest memories of you as the DFO. Like you you knew me when I felt like, well, how does this guy even know my name? And of course it's like your job to know everyone's names, but I'm just wondering, like, how did you said you were a social student, but have you always been this way where you feel like you remember people well, you associate people with like stories and stats, or do you feel like this is something where you like make a really intentional effort to be able to do with all the people you interact with?
God, tough question to know the exact answer. I mean, I think part of it is, um, it's fun, right? Like my job is to be around 18 to 22-year-olds playing sports. And so, I wasn't really good at, studying for a history test, but if you told me to tell you the stats of the 95 World Series, like I could probably rattle that off. So my job, when I came, well, even when I worked at Cal, but when I was at Davis, was to get to know all the student athletes, to get to know you. And if I wanted to be good in my job, it was to invest in all of you, and make you guys better, make you better people. So there's one thing to know how many sacks or how many catches, you had, but the best part of the job is, and to this day, my favorite part of the job is just leaving my office and going on the sideline and watching practice. Go whatever practice it is, mainly it's football, and sitting there and just being a sponge and the watching the practice, but also just talking to you guys and understanding what you're experiencing. And, that just grew relationships. And so then from that, you develop empathy for the tough times and you find joy in the times that we celebrated. So when guys got hurt, like I felt bad for them and I wanted to understand what it was. I didn't want to be transactional and like, oh, Dwight's out. We're going to Sam Batu's in, right? It's not that. It's more about, okay, Dwight's hurt. What's the next step? What are we going to do for him? And that to me is just the best part. And it's forming relationships. I do like people. I like good people. I'll put it like that. And by and large, all the people in Davis have been good people. And, so it's rewarding to be around them and learn about them. And, it's funny. I was talking with Coach Biggs. He was on the trip this last weekend, and we marvel at how many names that he has remembered. I remember Stephen Pitts always used to talk about, he would see Coach Biggs, and Coach Biggs would always ask about his parents and name them by name. It's like, it's amazing. And while I can do that, I can't not nearly as good as all the names that Coach Biggs is, but I can remember most of the people. I may forget what years you played, but I remember the eras that you played, and kind of and then we jog the memory of like, oh, that touchdown North Dakota that Brock scored. We bring up those things, and I just remember those histories and those moments that we had together. And for me, it's probably why I stuck through sport and in being, especially at Davis, because when you guys leave, the next group comes in and they're just as good of people as you are, if not better. And then, I'm dealing with Lan Larison, I'll give you this one. Like I'm dealing with Alonzo Gilliam, who I think is one of the best running backs I've ever seen. He leaves, and then you have Lan Larison, who is, just as good, if not better. And so like my life is really fulfilled of having to have guys like that are in my life. But it's not just the stars, it's everyone. And that's what I've loved about it. It's made what an 18-year career. I don't think I'm that old because I'm looking at 18 to 22-year-olds my whole life, but I definitely feel older. But that's what's made this so much fun, is because I can I've been able to build relationships and sit around with people and talk about how great things have been and know about their lives as well. Sorry.
Yeah. It's something that I would use the word jealous on an unhealthy side, or happy for you on the the healthy side, but like to hear about that, like to hear about your favorite parts of practice or your favorite parts of your day, like going to football practice, getting to know all these different people, getting to see the stars, getting to empathize with those who get hurt, remembering, uh, you know, walk-ons falling on fumbles in Sioux Falls or wherever the heck we played. Grand Forks, I think, is where it was.
That's
You
funny.
probably remember, and I don't. But the reality is, like, you have like this type of job that maybe the day to day we don't always see like the hard moments. Like we see you on game day now, or we,
Yeah.
are having you help us coordinate a guest or that sort of thing. But there's a lot of hard moments, I'm sure, and you alluded to some of them, like with people getting hurt and like, and not everyone has like that story of becoming the star. They could end up not being on the team anymore, whatever the case may be, and those don't always get shared. We'll get to some happy stuff because life has been pretty happy in Aggie land the last couple of years specifically. But like, are there any moments that you really kind of stick in your brain where you're like, man, like that was just a low moment that now you can look back on and realize, that person's in a different place or you're in a different place, but just like some of the hard moments of the job, and it could be like the monotony of the day to day. Does anything come to mind?
It's funny because Tim just this last week, good segue from this like game. He's like, don't let your failures be a failure, right? Not exact those words, but he said that. And so I think about all those moments and actually how great things have turned out because of those moments. So yeah, unfortunately I have a few. I mean, when you're supervising the football coach that is married to the athletic director, when, Ron Gould and Teresa Gould, like that wasn't an easy spot to be in. And while I really thank Teresa for making that as easy as possible and Ron for managing that, it really, was a tough situation that I was put in to kind of manage. And it was, it challenged my kind of moral compass about kind of, am I doing this right? Is this worth it? The direction of UC Davis football. And, none of us were in a good situation. I think each, Teresa and Ron will say they had it worse than I did, which they could have, right? I think I had it worse than they did. So that was really tough, but it helped me at the same time. It helped me learn kind of my management process, communication process. It probably hurt some of my relationships with some, Teresa and Ron, but it was a good stretch to learning. There's just different errors. I mean, we went through, when Greg Orzek, we had to cut sports. That was terrible. Trying to, have all these kids protest and they're marching and asking, for funds and, saying, hey, well, take some money from the football program and the basketball program. It's like, those, they were hurting just as much. So there's always been some, some dark times of being here, but I mean, I think when you guys interviewed Bob Biggs, he talked about just, funding wise, we weren't where we wanted to be early on in those careers. And it was a lot of fun to be around the coaches and the staff as we persevered through what was what would I say a dark time. It wasn't really dark, but hard times of Aggie football, where we didn't have as much money as other programs. We weren't funded great, but Coach Big had his legal pad, and we were penciling out, how to stretch dollars and scholarships, and we may have not won, as many games and got in the playoffs, but like we had a lot of fun coaching and being a part of the program and building things there. It's not easy to go to Cal and see Keenan Allen pass and throw and run for a touchdown, but we actually worked through that. And really, I mean, that coaching staff that year probably had one of the best years of coaching that I've been a part of, in what they were able to kind of put through and accomplish. So it's like, yeah, there are low moments here, but I'm really thankful for all of them that I've gone through, because they've helped me prepare for all the things that have come up. And when we talk about budget cuts in our current day, they don't hurt as much as I don't want to cut anything. able to kind of work through with Matt Kitchen and Tim and Rocco about, what are we going to do? How do we work through things? And, while we push for more money, but all those things have prepared me for kind of, I think, where we're at today.
When I think, yeah, that was those two low moments that you mentioned were, it's easy to forget, but that cutting of sports, was such a cataclysmic thing, and still reverberates for folks who were connected to those sports at Davis at that time. But you said something, something that's come up in what you've said so far, Josh, that I want to hit on, and then we can move to, the football program now. Just because we share this experience of being in athletic administration. And I think there's this awesome piece of it, like you said, for me, it was walking down from my office up in Hickey to the track to hang out with the athletes, and for you, it's going out to, a football practice or wherever. That stuff's awesome. But there's another side of being in athletics administration that most people don't get to see or understand. At student athletes, get more visibility now, but certainly when we were student athletes, we had no idea. There's you've mentioned coaches quite a bit, and a huge part of the role is working with the tremendous men and women that are head coaches and coaching staffs across the department. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about, the folks in all the roles you've held over the years, in addition to working closely with football. I think this would be on the bright side from my brief experience, just being able to interact with incredible coaches across the different programs in UC Davis athletics. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when I first got here, I was the assistant AD of event management. And so while I had to make sure the football program, as also the DFO, while I had to make sure the football program was good, my staff, my event management staff, had to execute setting up and managing all the 200 plus sporting events throughout the year. So on a football game day, not only am I getting bananas and post-game meal, I'm also making sure the referees are in place, the parking attendants are there, the ticket takers are there, and then we may have a volleyball game that night. And my most loyal staff member, Matt Blankenheim, who worked with me for, 6-8 years, was my rock. He got everything done. He would not let me pick up a towel. He would not let me do more than was needed. But, he and I and some other staff members, executed event management for, all those sports. So it was funny when football season would end, there's some people would take, the coaches would kind of take a deep breath and then go on the recruiting tail. I remember like Matt and I would go play a round of golf to celebrate the end of football season and end up with a picture at Plainsfield Station. But then the next day or so, we're setting up for basketball, the basketball season, and getting ready to execute 20 to 40 nights of basketball season. So it was just a slog. But again, I go back to people over things, and we have just had unbelievable people that, Matt will always be like kind of my rock. But, you talk about coaches. I mean, very fortunate to have two unbelievable coaches I've worked with, and Jim Less and Jen Gross. And, going to school with Jen, and just, they understand the Aggie pride and what it takes. And, Kevin Nosek and I went to school together too here. And so we all have this mutual level of respect of what is being built here and the expectation. So again, I'm lucky to work with them. But, in my 18 years here, I've supervised almost every sport except for, field hockey, swimming, and maybe a couple others. And so I've just had the fortunate aspect of interacting and working with great humans. I'm sitting next to Dwayne Schaefer, who's been here along with me, but it's not just, as I said, it's not just a transactional, how you doing? It's a deep love of, hey, how's the season going? We're talking about the success and failures, and then we go talking about both his daughters and where they're at. And he always asks about my son Luke. And so I've had that pleasure of being around amazing people, and in the roles from either event management. I oversaw the equipment room. I've overseen facilities at one point. I think, God, I oversee strength conditioning. God, I oversaw sports medicine for 8 years, and talk about being way over your head on stuff. It was, I have no idea what scapula is versus, my medial collateral ligament. And I'm overseeing these units, but, part of, what my role as a supervisor was to have people educate me. It was no different than sitting on the sideline and talking with, you, Dwight, about what your route tree is, and you explain that to me, and when I work with sports med, I said, hey, explain to me, like, why do we need to go this route? What decisions we have to make. And I worked with Tina Tutts at that time about building our policies and reforming our sports medicine from when Jeff Hogan left, and really elevating what we did. So yeah, I talk about kind of pride and kind of what a novice sports medicine person did in that time, and me, and helping build that shop up to what it is now. Like, was a huge accomplishment in that. But that only happens with people that are understanding and want to work, and also have the common vision of making this place better. I mean, if everyone was just coming in and checking the box of like, hey, I showed up to work like every other state worker, then, it wouldn't work. But we had people, either I pushed them or they're self-motivated to raise the bar to what it was. But a lot of it comes down to just, getting the right people in the door. And, again, I keep name dropping people, but one of my first hires was Eric Stoudemire, that I truly made as a tennis coach. And I just remember the difficult decision of like the level of coaches that were applying for that position, and picking Eric. And one of the best hires I think I've ever made, of just a genuine Davis guy. And, to this day, you have kids that graduate just talk about, he will push you to the limit, but you're going to have the blast doing it. And that epitomizes what Davis Athletics is, and David, and what he's done with that program. And we keep having more and more coaches like that. And I'm just lucky. Again, like I tell you guys, I went into this job, wanting to be in sports because I love sports, but the byproduct is that it's just being around good people, and it makes the job even that better because, we can have conversations, and we can talk about sport. And, I really want to know about sports, and why people, do things. I've had Dan Layson explain to me 6-on-5s, explain to me his out of bounds, his after timeout calls. And while it's mundane and probably a waste of time, it's really interesting to have him explain that to you, then watch it in real time during the game. I did this a lot with Coach Hawk and Coach Blau. It's fun for them to dumb it down and talk about sports with you, and educate you, and you get to watch it. And so that's really been, really cool. So that's kind of like all those jobs have led to me, where I am, and they've all kind of had the steps of, where we are today, where, you have, I mean, being your 18, your whole senior staff is made up of pretty much people that have come in, and they've reinvented what we've done. But, while Maggie Fenton's come in and done the event management and facility management different than I have, I've been able to give her the history lesson of why we've done things a certain way. When Rocco and Danielle come up with crazy ideas for marketing and stuff, I don't hold back on why it will or won't work. And to their credit, they just keep pushing. So it's, very, very lucky for me to have people and experience everything I have, and that people, I think, still listen to what I say. At least they pretend they're listening. If they take the advice, I can't tell, but they keep me around, I guess, to hear what I have to say.
With over 55 years of experience helping families and businesses navigate life's legal twists and turns, the law firm of Bold, Paulsner, Maddow, Nelson, and Judson is a proud partner of the Aggie Pride podcast. Whether you're starting a family, managing your assets, or facing the loss of a loved one, BPMNJ is there to guide you through some of life's toughest transitions with clarity, compassion, and care. They assist clients with estate planning and also support families dealing with incapacity, elder law, probate and trust administration, conservatorships, and civil litigation. The firm is managed by Craig Judson and his son, Scott Judson, former Aggie Pack MC and past president of the Cal Aggie Alumni Association. With offices in Walnut Creek and Sacramento, BPMNJ serves clients throughout California, bringing trusted legal guidance wherever it's needed. And here's something special for our listeners. Mention this podcast when you book your free consultation at bpmnj.com, and you'll receive $500 off a comprehensive estate plan. Bold, Paulsner, Maddow, Nelson, and Judson. Powered by Aggie Pride.
We've got a new home for Aggie Pride, a UC Davis football podcast. Visit AggiePridePodcast.com. It's the hub for everything. All our episodes, ways to subscribe for early access, and our brand new Aggie Pride Classic hats in navy or beige. While you're there, sign up so you never miss an update, and follow us on all our socials for game day content, throwbacks, and behind the scenes. And don't forget, like, follow, and share the pod so we can keep growing the Aggie fan community. We've got a new home for Aggie Pride, a UC Davis football podcast. Visit AggiePridePodcast.com. It's the hub for everything. All our episodes, ways to subscribe for early access, and our brand new Aggie Pride Classic hats in navy or beige. While you're there, sign up so you never miss an update, and follow us on all our socials for game day content, throwbacks, and behind the scenes. And don't forget, like, follow, and share the pod so we can keep growing the Aggie fan community.
Celebrate National Career Development Month with the Cal Aggie Alumni Association. Throughout November, CAAA hosts a variety of events to help elevate your career and grow your Aggie network. Learn more by visiting alumni.ucdavis.edu/events. That's awesome. Again, there's so many nuggets in there. I have so many questions I want to ask, like based on what you said, but just in the interest of, I know, and this will tee us up for my next question. I know your day to day is still full and busy, and you talked about the example of a game day where you were in charge of, felt like 7 different operations for football, and then the thought of going from and my dad even brought it up at the last game. He was like, how many staff does UC Davis have working across all departments on a football game day? He was just, because now that we're in our little lane, he's just kind of thinking about things a little differently than just like what defense we're going to run and how we're going to stop certain plays. And to think of you going to volleyball and all that would entail, I'm interested in like, what is your day to day now? We've been up there during some work days to try to do some interviews and various things a couple times since we started this. And I know that you guys have your offices, praise God, at Edwards Family Athletic Center. But walk us through, like, what does a day look like? We know that there's a lot of diversity in that, but I think it would be fun for our listeners to get to hear.
Part of this is I'm trying to keep my job by not disclosing what I do and don't do. So, like, by saying this, it's not helping my job longevity.
You can kick it.
Here.
You can kick it. You can say, nope, don't want to answer it.
It's again, like, spending time here. Thankful that I'm not doing event management and setting up chairs and tables and everything anymore. In the last couple of years, I've switched to a fundraising role and development role. So, my job has changed. So on a game day, it's a lot of it is interactions with people and trying to get people to the game and setting that up ahead of game day. Instead of showing up 6 to 8 hours ahead to make sure the parking signs are all ready, like I used to, I'm showing up, 4 or 5 hours, depending on the game and how organized I am, to kind of help our development staff set up the Champions Aggie Club, and all the kind of things that go on with the pregame. I usually, 5 hours is really extreme, but I kind of like to be here, and maybe I'll go to my office and get off my feet for a little bit. Right around 4 hours, when things open up, I start to walk around and I have my rounds of seeing people who are set up and and going around. And so, hopefully I'm going to get between the 4 hours before game, and by the end of the game, I get my 25,000 steps in. But it's really, on a game day, it's much different than it used to be for me. It's really about being a man amongst people, going to parent alley, seeing all the parents, checking in on them, asking them about their kids, seeing what's going on with them, talking about the game plan, hearing just what they have to say. Then going over to Mike Angus's tailgate and seeing all the alums from the 70s and 80s that congregate there, going to hopefully see Jane Arp over there and giving her my hug and talking about things with them. And of course, going over to Tailgate Town and seeing the mayor of Tailgate Town, Dave Holtman, to see how he's doing. So really, you have your rounds, and depending on how many people, which game it's at, it's hard to get to see everyone. But a lot of my game day is that, and then in game, it's kind of building up the same things of seeing people. And so it's a far different plan than when I was doing event management, and it was literally me, Matt Blankenheim, Kathy Smith, and Chris Spann or James Boschke, and I setting up everything and then having to kind of interact with people. I just remember those days, like Matt Blankenheim would be done with our day, and we'd find a 6-pack and just kind of be hurting from, everything we're doing. Like, I wake up on Sunday and felt like I played a football game when literally like I didn't anything of the sort. So it's much different. But again, like, this is the investment that it takes to be an elite program, is we've hired really good people to take those jobs, much better than Matt and I, and we've hired more people to kind of execute it. I mean, our game day atmosphere, far different from when you guys had it, when you guys played here. I mean, we've lost some of the Aggie pack, and that's starting to come back, but Maggie the Aggie running around, the video board, the PA, all those things, like, that can't be done with one person. It's done with multiple people. So we've had to hire things, and ticket sales, Jack and Danielle and their staff, hawking tickets. It's not an easy job. And so it takes all of that. So I can tell you that the game day from prior, Ron Gould and Bob Biggs there is much different from where it is now. And that's a good thing. It's the investment in that. So, when you talk about everything where this has gone, is it has taken some major steps to get this to the level. And, we were just in Bozeman, and that game day is elite. And one day we'll get there, but it's going to take, it can continuing to hire good people, get more staff, and, and have people execute at a high level. And as I can tell you see our game day production, it's much better. I mean, I remember when Hawk first got here, he was down on it, and rightfully so, right? And he put the pressure on us to be better and build it up, and that started to happen. Again, hiring better people, executing at our level, and it continues now with kind of Tim's expectations.
Yeah. Well, I'll toss it to Dwight here in a second. But you brought up ticket sales, and I've had the folks reach out from the office. I do think they do a good job, like text message reminders, phone calls, email marketing. I think all of that has like really taken a step up. Like you said, I mean, it's night and day from when we played. And looking at this week specifically, I'm really interested, like, what do ticket sales look like for Saturday, and like use that as a launching off point for this game on Saturday, potentially the last one ever against Sac State. And really, any thoughts on the season, high level? I wish we could go game by game, but just anything you want to share about the season, ticket sales, and the game coming up.
Well, I'll start with ticket sales. I mean, we're expecting a large crowd, but by no means, like, we want that crowd to mostly be Davis. So we need to ramp up those sales. And, it's always been the question we've tried to answer at Davis is, how do we sell this place out game by game? What is the magic sauce that we want? And I look at this, and I go back from the Hawk era in 2018 or 2017 to what Tim's doing, and we have elite football. I mean, some of the best football that we've had in recent years, and it's a different era, and it kind of goes into how are we going to build this place up? And in the last few years, we've really been pushing to getting more season ticket sold. And, while we have some alumni that buy tickets and give them back when they're not using it, they usually give me the tickets and I manage them to other alumni that are looking for tickets. Like, we need more of that. So, so to long answer to your question here, we're trending better, but we need to make this a Davis crowd. It's the Lost Causeway. The playoffs are on the line, and there would be no better feeling than to knock Sac State out of the playoffs and keep the Causeway Trophy for the foreseeable future in this game. And it's going to take an effort of our alumni to show up in our community. Our community, we have, can we get 3,000 students to show up there? I mean, everyone asks me, why don't the students show up? And it's not a lack of trying. I can tell you that. I know Danielle pulls her hair out trying to figure out what they have to do on getting people here. And I know they're trying, and it's outside of kind of shutting down campus and forcing professors to give extra credit to come to games. Like, that's what we feel like it's going to take to get 3,000 of the 40,000 students here to show up. But they do show up for big games. So we in our meeting today, we're hoping that we're projecting to have 11,000, but let's get that to 12, 14,000 people. And really, I encourage everyone to take the time to see the Aggies. And kind of my thing is, like, if not now, when? Like, what's it going to take? This is, Caden Pennick, you guys watch him. He is an elite quarterback, and he is fun to watch. And we're going to enjoy watching every moment of him as it can. But as a true Aggie who gets to sit on the sidelines and know these guys, I'm going to enjoy the heck out of watching Jaden Stanley for the amount of stuff that guy's putting in. That guy is just dragging after games because he has put his whole life and effort into these games. So I'm going to hug it out with Nava after this, Ernesto Nava after this game, because it's, his last regular season game, and he came back, just to play with Eli one more year. And so that's what I'm hoping everyone comes back to support and watch, is really being immersed in this team and the individual players that, have built this program. So season tickets are, these tickets are, they're doing okay. We can get a few more people in. And that brings up, if we win, we're going to be playing probably Thanksgiving weekend. We're going to need people to show up then. I know it's not going to be a convenient weekend either. Everyone's going to be either out of town or just trickling back into town. But, we're hoping that everyone, the community rallies and makes it a good environment for us. I think your other question was just about the season. Am I right? We were talking about that. Mercer seems like a lifetime ago, being stuck in the in a room with the Mercer associate AD and Rocco and I and the game officials talking about, how to manage the lightning storm, what the official rules of a no contest is, talking to the airlines, figuring out what our options are. That was a lifetime ago. But this has been a fun season. I am really, really fortunate to be around Tim Plow and this coaching staff, just for the relationship that we all have to kind of deal with a crappy situation like that, to have a blowout loss against Washington. And for that, for Tim to manage that game and not just be so mad at Rocco and I for finding a game and putting it in that situation, but managing that and understanding, like, hey, it's part of college football. We didn't do our job completely on showing up to that game, but we also helped paid for our bills and funded some of the programs. So we know our role. And so I'm just thankful for that perspective of a coach. Not much different from what Coach Hawk did when he was here, but in this current year, it's been fun. But to watch kind of the segments, those first 3 games where we went 1-1 or 2-1, depending how you count the Mercer game. Then the next segment of games where we made that stretch and up to the second bye and just kind of found our name. And then these last few games where we played. Tim and I were walking away. We were just meeting a little bit earlier today, and we're just talking about the Montana State game. About we left points on the board. Same with Idaho. Left points on the board. Didn't execute things fully. And I think what's awesome and frustrating is we just have not played our best football game yet. We've played good football, but we still haven't played our best game. And I think the players know that. They will, as Tim was saying, they walk off that field and against Montana State, we know that that's a game we could have won. We can win that game. If we have to go back to Montana State, then I think we're going to be confident that we can compete and win that game. So when you look at the kind of the season that we're having, it's been a really fun season. It's sad too. You lose all these guys to injury between the Porter and Rex, the same game, Winston, Vargas, countless other guys too that have gone out. And some coaches would just use that as a platform and be like, oh man, this season we could be the best team in the country. We could win it all this year if all those were guys back. Not once did I have ever heard any of those guys talk about that. I haven't heard Rex complain. I haven't heard Tim even mention that stuff. And that's what I speaks to, the Davis guy and the Davis personality, is that these guys are about next man up and supporting each other, and we're going to win with what we can. And that's what's probably, I guess, what makes this thing so fun to see is that, to go out there in Montana State and Idaho and, after losing Vargas and for this team to kind of figure out how to win and compete and play is really cool. To have guys that step up, and different guys each game, be it Jake Sykes, be it, Cole Batson or Tico or Fisher, right? Fisher carrying the load, and even Kai coming in and just churning out 4 yards on some great carries that, to give Fisher and Caden a break. I mean, that to me is the specialness about what Tim has done with this year, is like, there's no one person that's going to win this for us. It truly is a team. And, again, I can go on about the elite coaching that's going on, the fact that these guys are out scheming the guys that they're going against with the bodies we have available, and what Matt Coombs does to frustrate offenses. Like, that's where we could talk for hours about how cool that is, and I don't even know half of the stuff I'm talking about when we talk with them about what they're doing, but it's phenomenal to experience and just see the buy-in that all the players have. So they just like this, implicit trust in what they're doing, and you can see it. And that's, I truly believe culture will win. And that's why one more story. I actually got a call from this Montana number today, and I'm not going to say this guy's name, but he called me and he was like, hey, I sit behind the visiting team's bench. I'm in the first or second row. He's like, what's up with Coach Plow? Is he always like that? He just he seems very relaxed and doesn't get too high or too low. And normally I wouldn't make this call back, but I wasn't sure if this was like, hey, we did something wrong at the hotel or whatever. But so I'll let this guy speak. And so he's going on about Coach Plow and how he sees it and how the whole team is. He's like, man, the whole team, like the coaches are jumping up, down and vibing. And then you see the team doing it. It's like, do the coaches how are they with coach? And, why do they, no one's talking back to us in the stands and engaging with us when we're yelling at them. And it's just it's so impressive to see how he reflects and manages this team and how they respond. And they look like they're going to run through a wall for him and the coaches. I said, yeah, that's it. That's fine joy. I mean, I told him, like, you look at press conference and look at fine joy. That is what it is. And Tim believes in that. And, at first it was like, oh, fine joy, that's good. But it really is. It's a nice saying. And these guys are about it. And playing for him and playing Aggie football is their way of joy. And so that was a fun conversation to hear from, a guy that's been watching that from a great program. And and kind of encapsulizes what has gone on to this point this year.
That is an awesome story. And it does, I think, encapsulate a culture, right, from the top down. And who else is in a better position than you, Flush, to talk about that, because you've seen so many great teams over the years, so many great coaches, and yet there is something special about what Coach Plow and the group has put together about this year specifically, in spite of all the obstacles. And the Saturday's going to be sweet, special senior night, senior day, and then hopefully there are more games after that. So yeah, listen to Flush when he tells you to go get tickets if you haven't already. We got a ton of questions on Instagram. We don't have time to really get to them all, but there is one that I wanted to pull in as we close out our time, Flush, because I think it speaks to, how do we keep building what has been started? The special elite playing football at elite level, more people getting involved, the game day atmosphere evolving, like all these other pieces. Our boy Danny Alfaro, the people's quarterback, the QB1 of this podcast, asked, Flush, what are the best ways that football alums can support the program? And he wanted you to rank them, but I'll let you kind of talk about it. But he mentions monthly donations, season tickets, attending different events, tailgating. There isn't an all the above option, so that's no easy way out on this question, Flush, but maybe use that to talk a little bit about what's cooking, and how people should think about getting involved, because there is more than one way to support kind of stacking bricks and grabbing a shovel, or whatever analogy we want to use to, kind of the all hands on deck that we're looking for here.
Yeah. Ultimately, I mean, number one, everything is money. Like, monetary donations or even gift in kinds are what's going to help this program really get to that level. And it can be anything right at this point, right? I want some of our young alumni, to learn how to give, and because you're going to be successful, you learn how to give early on, you're going to give later. So, some of these young alumni, I just want you to start thinking about doing $50 a month. That turns out to, I think, is $600 a year. That's, albeit that doesn't change a huge amount, but it's the act of getting involved and giving. Tim, since he's been back, has talked about wants to get $1,000 donors, like want to get $500,000 donors a year, right? We want people to get in the habit of giving $1,000. Like, if we can get $500,000 just without even doing any work, knowing that we have that money, that is a huge, that's a huge thing for us. And then we can, get donations on above that. We need more people involved. I mean, it's a history. Davis, for the longest time, players had to pay to play here. Non-scholarship D2. We're not that anymore. And I think some of it we're demystifying some of the old days of, well, you guys have more than I ever had. It's like, yes, understandably, but we're still, if we want to compete with Montana State, we need to have these resources. We'll compete with them based off of athleticism, coaching, but it is going to take money to kind of have the resources for nutrition and travel and, gear and NIL at some point for what we're going to build up. So cash is important. Is it be monthly, annually, or one-time gifts? There's, people can stock transfer money for taxable gains. They can do a CRT. They can do planned giving, and, they can put in our trust. If anyone wants to have a conversation, I'm happy to have it, because there are plenty of ways to give. The other one is, you mentioned season tickets and attending these events. I'm going to rank bring a friend, get more people involved over any of that right now. We've done some really good fundraising in the last few years where we've raised some of the highest dollars we have. We're still not to the level we are, but, Bob Krieger, who you guys had on this pod, he hosted an event, and, what we thought would be like 50 to 75 people, we had 140 people come. In that, the purpose of why that is successful is there were so many people that hadn't been on the campus in a long time, including Bob, and it allowed them to see the joy of Davis and experience like seeing their buddies. And what I want is I just want more people. I want more people I don't know in their history to come and just talk about their experience. We had our alumni day, and there's a lot of guys I didn't know, and I got to sit around and talk at a table with them. And we had this event kind of sponsored by Mr. B's, and to hear all these guys talk about Mr. B's, kind of like how I experienced the Paragon when I was here, it was just a great place. I mean, I heard Liz Slater was telling me that Ken O'Brien had his draft day phone call from the Jets there. I mean, that's just an iconic story, but hear people talking about that and bringing people back, that to me is I think it jogs the memory, because most people, even if you didn't have a great career here and played, and I remember talking with Chad Sindel about this. He said, Flush, you have a roster of 100 guys. Not everyone had a great career and didn't have the same experiences as Kahari Jones or Mark Reed. But they still love Davis, and that's what keeps them coming back. So if I get the opportunity, or you guys get the opportunity, bring a friend and come back to a game, buy them a ticket to come to the game and be a part of this. That's what's really important to me of making this kind of, to growing this, because and that in turn, hopefully we'll get more people to want to donate and be involved in a different capacity. So that's important. Buying season tickets, of course. I have Todd Shaner, who came to Fight Night last year, fell in love with the D line, talked about the thing. He bought 2 season tickets along with, keep dropping a few names, but Jerry Gower. Both these guys live on the East Coast. They live in Virginia and New York, and they bought season tickets to help out the Aggies. And so they have now, they say if they couldn't give the tickets away, they donate them. They say, hey, Flush, find 2 people to give these tickets to. And I've been able to do that all season. So those kind of things help and matter for what we're doing in terms of revenue and money. So that's kind of my rankings, but ultimately, right, if people understand that this Davis is great, I mean, it's an amazing place. And if you alumni and fans keep wanting to make it grow and compete with Montana State, it's going to take a little bit of effort, be it emotional or monetary, and emotional efforts even as important. I mean, Ken Kearns, Tim and I reached out to him this like early summer. And we were like, hey, Ken, let's meet up for dinner. And what was just going to be us with Ken just talking about growing the program then turned into 10 Aggies sitting around eating food and drinking wine and telling stories. And it was just a great moment to kind of share with everyone and hear everyone's different experiences and just laugh about, Fred Arp in the shade drill and how the D-line was just kicking the O-line's ass because Borowski had them running 90 plays when Fred had only run like 30 plays. And that to me was a great night. We didn't raise money that night necessarily, but we grew fellowship. And then I started hearing from more of those guys about coming back, and they keep showing up. And so that's part of it, is like, how do we bring a friend and keep growing this? That's what's important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, even talk about like, I really like that idea of bringing friends, because, Coach and I talked about it out of practice one time this year, because he's been vocal about donor support. And obviously in your role, it's just at the precipice of what we're trying to do. And we understand that that's one of the key ingredients to having success, especially like, let's be honest, people, watch college football. Look at Texas A&M ranked 3rd. Look at Indiana, like these schools that aren't even necessarily like historic powers. And a lot of it is because of the influx of just money coming into the program. But I do like that idea of, like, for instance, this Saturday, like we have a bunch of friends. Some of them didn't even go to Davis, like literally don't have a connection to Davis. they bought tickets. Like, literally had a friend text me today. I just called the ticket office and bought tickets to the game. Like, we're gonna be there. So, like, you can get people. This team's just exciting. Period. And I think sometimes we think like it has to, only football alumni are gonna do it, or only. But no, there's more fans. There's more support out there, and sometimes it's hard to believe that because we've been doing it and we've been a part of the program for a while, and you think like, oh, Davis isn't going to get to that level of like fandom. But I mean, we're on national TV 3 times this year. Like, a bunch of people watched the game like on Saturday against Montana State, and so I think there's a lot of opportunity, like you said, that was not there necessarily in the early 2010s when Dwight and I and now Nick King, who joins us, was there during that time too. So, we like to finish with like a final word from you, just with a reminder of the audience. It is football alumni, but it is parents, it is fans, it is students. It's more people than we even thought, and that's because more people are engaged with Aggie football than we even thought. So, any closing word for those who are listening and supporting the program?
Man, I feel like we can go on for another hour. I haven't even finished talking about Fred and Lou and Bob Foster and the specialness of those people, as well as the alumni, and let alone Coach Biggs and Coach Hawk. I mean, tell you, like, that guy, Coach Hawk, meant a ton to this place and me and what we all learned from everything. So again, that's probably a part 2 that we'll do another time. Final word is, man, I am so lucky. I mean, I am lucky. I had my wife had moved up here with me and was a 9. We got married a few years later, had my kid. You guys have met Luke. He's been around the program. Coach Hawk let Luke come to practices. When they did ice cream, Luke would somehow be down there. I had Luke working for the equipment room, and they call him Little Flush, walking around there. Ari and Matt Kitchen take care of him. Like, I don't have to worry about my son. I mean, he goes in the chancellor's tent and steals cupcakes. So, he has full reign. So I'm just lucky that, I was able to fall in a situation, be around one of the best persons ever in Bob Biggs, and work for him. Went through some dark times, and then getting Hawkins and now, Tim Plow being here. And he is just a special coach, and I'm going to enjoy every moment I have with him, because I sit with him, and optimistically I'm like, okay, he's going to be here for another 10, 15 years because he loves this place as much as we do, if not more. And he wants his kids to grow up in this environment. I'm also naive to think that it may be much shorter than that. So I love that guy. He was a quarterback when I was here my first year, and I was like, who's this arrogant quarterback? And and then I got to see him as a young professional and become who he is. And he is an elite coach in all senses of the game. And of course, I'm biased here. I'm sure the Montana fans think they have the best coach, or the Alabama fans think they do. But I truly believe that Tim is an elite person. The language he uses around his student athletes, the way he talks to everyone, the way he talks to me, for that matter, right? There's times when, it's fun, Plow, and then there's time where it's like, well, we need to execute this flush or else everything's going to fall apart, or, help buy in on stuff. And the fact that he allows me to push it back on him, that's a reciprocal relationship with him. And I can tell him, hey, you need to do this. I'm going to push back and not do this. I mean, we're lucky. And, he's grown up listening to Coach Peterson, who, I got to meet briefly when he was down here this spring. And I just think that Tim is doing amazing things with this program. So, for that reason only, I tell people, fill the stadium, come to one of our lunches with the ball coaches, and just hear him talk about why he loves Davis, why he loves the student athletes, what this means to him. I mean, I'm an emotional guy, and I tear up when he talks about certain things, because I know what it means to him and I know what it means to me. And so, since we hired him, it's like I've manifested in my mind being in Frisco or in Nashville, hopefully, with the trophy. Like, it's something that, I do think is a real thing that we can attain, be it this year or the following years, just in his time. And I want to enjoy every moment until that happens. I want to go through the ups and downs, because I tell you, like, don't let your failure be a failure. He says that's important, and we're going to learn from it. Is the team going to learn from this last game? Absolutely. Am I going to learn from the things I've messed up on? Give you an example. Like, we got to prepare for, if we make it the quarterfinals, we have finals during that week. We are prepping for how to manage that now, because last year we had Miles Hastings and all the grad school management guys taking a final from 7 to 10 o'clock on Friday before playing South Dakota. Not optimal, but that's what Davis guys do. But we're going to learn from those things. So I go back to, I'm just extremely lucky. I love Davis. I love the people that I've been around, be it the baseball players, the tennis players, soccer players that I supervise, Matt Blankenheim, who saved my butt countless times, be it you guys that, I saw you guys play as 18 to 22-year-old kids, and now you guys are somehow adults with kids of your own. To me, that's the special part, is that it's these kind of things that, like, it's just fun to see life evolve and life grow, and you guys doing things, and again, I can keep the name drop, but having lunch with Austin Hayworth and talking about his path and how him and Grant Harper are kind of the same path as players, individuals, and in how important the life was for Austin. And it's created him kind of where he is, and he's gone on to do amazing things, and he is a big guy in the political world in Sacramento, and just a great human being. And for me, it's so fun. But I think about that, but I also think about Austin coming in against Portland State when Greg Danner severed his finger, and Austin just, telling guys, I got this, and throwing 2 darts for touchdowns that game and leading us to victory. It was just, those are things that always will stick out in my mind about how great this place is that the people are always going to make me happy about it. And again, like you guys, this podcast, from the infancy stages where I'm like, oh God, these guys with the podcast and everything, what are you guys going to do? The 3 listeners being Nick, you two, and maybe me. But it speaks to where Davis has gone and who you guys are, about that. This is becoming something, and it's picking up. It gets some national recognition. You're talking people, you're growing it. And the old Davis, it would have been the 5 listeners, but now this is grown, and I'm really happy for what you guys are doing for Aggie football, and just for, UC Davis, and just kind of you guys. Like, it's awesome. So, this is a microcosm of how special things have been. So I just, I talk about that. Yeah, I may have not made the most money in my life, working here, but I've found a lot of joy and success in being a part of this, be it with the student athletes, the parents, the alumni, and learning more alumni stories in my role right now has even been more fun. Like getting to talk with Bob Krieger, Bob Kincaid, and those doctors, as well as like Troy Larkin, getting countless texts from him. And it's so motivating because people care. They all care, and you want UC Davis to be better. And so then you go watch TV and you see Jero, becoming a playoff team as the D coordinator. It's like, there's nothing but pride. Like, I don't care about Carolina Panthers, but damn it, I care about Ejero making that team a playoff team, and how cool that is. So, again, that's what I say. I love being here. I love everyone, and sharing that moment with Tim when we win it all is going to be really special. And not only for me and him, but it's going to be special for all of us. And he keeps reading that, like, those hugs and those tears are going to be flowing that day when that happens. And I tell you, it's going to happen. It will.
Yeah. Well, this is a part 1 of a part 2, because like you said, it's too full life at UC Davis to not like spend more time on it. I think that's why so many people were intrigued and wanted you to be on, and we're appreciative that you carved out time. We know it's a crazy week to do that. So we look forward to seeing you in Davis on Saturday. We will be there with David Holtman and the crew and making the rounds in our own way, not the same as you, but just, I mean, to think of all the stories that are just going to be there this Saturday. A lot of them you actually have mentioned, but so many more that we didn't get to. Like, it's going to be special. So thanks again for joining us.
Thank you,
Love you,
guys. Let's
Flush.
make this the best story of them all, this Causeway.
Let's do it. Love you, man.
Great job, guys. Love you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Flush.
Relax.